Welcome to the Qualified Business Champions mini-series, where we're going to highlight a recent graduate on how they create more purpose, profit, and productivity all around them. So today, we're going to welcome to the mini-series, Lori Branham. How are you, Lori?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Spencer.
Fantastic. Wow, I gotta turn down my volume. I got it cranked up here.
I'm not being too loud, am I?
No. You're fine. So let me ask you, real quick, just to give everybody a sense. Tell us about what kind of business you're in, how long you've been in that business, and maybe a sense of kind of a production. I don't know if that's really an answer or something you can answer in terms of production, but tell us a sense of what kind of work do you do?
So I work for a mortgage company. I work for Movement Mortgage, and I am on the marketing side. I'm the marketing coordinator. And so what I do is I just work with loan officers at our company to help them, produce more.
Okay. So, and in the background, you're helping them on the marketing end. I mean, that's kind of a simple way to say it. So
Exactly.
Your day-to-day activities would include?
I could be planning events. I help them with social media. I help them in training in general. We have a lot of the good thing about our company is we have like a lot of tools for them, a lot of resources. So I just help kind of train them and educate them on how to use those tools. Mm-hmm. So that's just a few of the things that I do.
You create a great deal of leverage for some of these loan officers so that they can stay focused on what they need to do. And
right. Try to add value. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
So what kind of some of the producers you have around you, and some of the people that's going to watch this won't necessarily or hear this won't actually understand the production of a loan officer, like a point of reference. They won't know what 20 million in production really means to them. But tell me kind of a collective idea of how much production you guys are doing on a regular basis, just maybe your crew. You have any idea?
It's interesting you say that. I don't want to give you bad information. We had an email go out this morning, and I'm trying to remember exactly what the number was. I can tell you in our region, we were number one. I would say the number. So on average per
just
LA,
like your average person
right.
that you work with specifically that you help maximize their business with their marketing. What kind of players are you working around? Is I guess what I'm asking.
So it could be anywhere from 2 to up to 5 million in production per quarter.
Per quarter. Okay. Mm-hmm. So we're talking anywhere from 24 to 8 to 20 million in volume. Does that sound about right?
Right.
Yeah. So, and that's pretty heavy considering that the average loan officer, I'm guessing, is doing way less than that.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you're working with some top performing people around you. So before we get too far into all the stuff you got at the Qualified Champions the business mastermind that we did, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe family, sure. Previous careers, anything that you're proud of, hobbies, that kind of thing?
Sure. So I'm married. I'm actually married to a mortgage originator. So it's all around us all the time. We have 6 children between us. So 3 I actually gave birth to, and then 3 I was blessed with. Wow. So we have a large family. And so I would say some of my hobbies are we live on the lake, and so I love to be on the water. We love to go boating. I love to paddleboard. We have a swing on the back porch, and I love to sit on the swing and have coffee and read. And so anyway, those are just a couple of things a few things that come to mind.
Yeah, so you're here in the middle of South Carolina, and
yes.
So you live on Lake Murray. That's a freshwater lake here, right?
That's right.
It's kind of a big deal in this area.
It is a big deal. So yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, it's a nice place to be, to go out there and enjoy the nature, that kind of thing. So yes. Tell us a little bit about your previous careers too, because I think this particular role you've only been doing for a little while.
October.
It's October of last year.
So since October.
So to give a sense, we're talking 8 months, 9 months right now.
Right.
And and you seem to really be be blossoming in that particular role.
I do
But
enjoy
prior,
it.
can you give us just a flyover of what you're familiar with or what you've been a part of?
Sure. So I've been in banking and banking since, fresh out of high school. And then I went into the mortgage industry about, I think, 18 years ago, and I was a loan originator. And
Okay.
so I just, did that role. And then, like I said, back in October, I transitioned into the marketing side of things.
Got it. So you got into the loan business, actually. So you were a loan originator early
Yes.
2000s.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right
So
after the crisis, actually.
yeah, well, you were right there at the beginning of when right there as it was climbing, and then 6 years into your career,
Yes.
everything's great. Then all of a sudden, whoa,
Mm-hmm.
and things have kind of corrected themselves. We're back to a normal type deal, and you
Yes.
decided to make a change.
I did.
Okay,
Yes.
got it. So that just helps everybody understand a little bit more about your backstory. So as we move forward, kind of why you would do this. So I guess before we get into the championship stuff, so tell me, one of the coolest things for those of you that are watching or listening to this
Mm-hmm.
that have not done it, one of the coolest things that we do is we take a night or a day, whatever time frame, and everybody there gets to share a specific gift. Everybody votes on it. So yours was actually one that was a little bit unusual, I think, in a sense, and yet it was extremely powerful for everybody there because that's what they voted for. So why don't you tell everybody what you taught everybody on in 7 minutes? By the way, you did it, which was fantastic. Great job.
Thank you.
Tell everybody the topic, and then maybe let's just dive in a little bit on what you taught them.
So my topic was being intuitive, or intuition, and so it's one of those things that I did not think that much about. I think I shared with you. I thought it was just some kind of I related it to like mother's intuition, and so I just thought it was kind of this just God-given gift for moms. And then as I dove into it a little bit more, I really learned that it's more about my five senses and what I'm taking in as I'm just being observant of people and things around me. And so I learned that there's actually cues that people give off that you can pick up on. And it could be facial expressions, it could be body language, it could be those sorts of things. And then once you're taking in that information, then it gives you the ability to kind of come to conclusions about that person.
Yeah. So, I think the reason why a lot of the people asked you to speak on that subject,
Mm-hmm.
for those that are not familiar with the program, one of the first days we're there, I ask everybody to write down 3 skills that everybody, or 3 gifts or 3 things that you can do really well that other people just think they can never do. And
Mm-hmm.
Lori had written down, I have a strong sense of intuition. I just kind of sense things better than the average person, and people are wondering about it. And, you'd wonder, why would a group of business leaders, owners, entrepreneurs, why would they care about intuition? And do you want to speak about that as to why that would be a high value in their careers?
Right, exactly. So 2 of the business examples that I gave, one as it relates to just when you're, for example, giving your sales pitch to a customer, you want to be able to pick up on cues, like, are they feeling unsure? Are they really liking what you're saying? Because if they're unsure, or they just or just don't seem clear on their position, then you probably don't want to try to close the sale at that time. You want to be able to give them some more information and bring them along.
Right.
And then the other one just dealt with real estate, and that the real estate agent she was able to pick up on the cues of her customers, and so when they went into a house, she could quickly determine, is this a good property for them? Do they like it? Do they not like it? And so she was able to kind of just walk through that with them, because the expression on their face was just obvious, whether they liked the home or they didn't like the home.
Right. So. And I think the intuition, just from my experience, and you brought in a word to the group that the rest of the room didn't know anything about, which was sensory acuity.
Yes.
You and I had some conversation around that. But when you have a heightened sense of sensory acuity, you don't want to jump straight into assumptions.
Right.
However, if you have that heightened awareness about people's facial expressions or their body language or what you
Sure.
hear or what you don't hear, it
Mhm.
gives you an opportunity to really ask better questions about what they're dealing with.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think it's just a powerful skill, and that's why I appreciate you bringing what you did to the room. Let
And
me just.
also to be able to understand that you practice it and you can get better at it.
Mhm,
So what you think it was just kind of a natural thing, but if you become aware, it's like a different level of awareness. And
mhm.
so when you become more aware of people's cues, then you get better at it.
Yeah.
So it's really effective as it relates to just connections with people.
Yeah, one of the many reasons why we actually do this as an exercise in the
Right.
mastermind is because we show people that much of the things that we think are just God-given gifts are
Right.
actually something we can deconstruct and teach someone else how to do.
Mhm.
And I've said it so many times that mindset and skill set tends to be two things in somebody's mind, when the truth is that mindset is a skill set.
Right.
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 So, of course, we learned that in the group. So, let me kind of move along here. What drew you to the mastermind, to the business mastermind? What kind of got you into the process, or at least
So,
curious about it?
well, of course, I know you, and I know that you are just a successful like coach and things like that. And so I knew that the information that you were going to be providing would be valuable to
Hmm.
me personally. The other thing is I'm always looking for ways to just be better, to add value, and I just don't think you're ever too old to stop learning new things. And I just knew that the resources would be valuable to me in my business.
Cool. So you saw something that was of value, something a little different,
Sure.
and you happen to know who I was. We'd had multiple conversations before, and I actually
Sure.
have known your husband
Right.
for a very long time, from way back. I don't know
Right.
that I met you until fairly recently. So thank you for sharing that. Now, what did you wish you knew before you went to it? Like, what do you think? What Yeah, what did you wish you knew before you went?
What did I wish that I knew? Mm, hmm.
Anything that you feel like might have helped you get more prepared?
Prepared for the class in general.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how to answer that.
No worries. You have a very open mind on a regular basis, and so
I try.
you had that level of trust. So you were just, we're going to go through this process. So that makes sense. What
Yeah.
my intention behind the question is just
Mhm.
helping other people be more prepared for when they choose to step forward. So
Well,
let me
I
ask you.
think, well, just being given thought to like where you are in your business, where you'd like to go, what are your goals, things like that. So I think if you've already given some thought to those things before coming to the class, that'll just, I think that would just be beneficial.
Perfect. Yeah. So what you're saying is it would be helpful if someone spent a little time analyzing where they currently are,
Sure.
because then you can take the material and actually accelerate it. Yeah.
Exactly.
And we did
Yes.
see a lot of that too. This last round where uh, some people had no clue where they were. They had to do the catch up game before they could apply anything they learned.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's
Yeah.
a huge piece of value. So
Hmm.
thank you. So
Right.
what kind of people do you think are good for this kind of thing? Who's a good person for this, the business one?
I think that um, I think it would be valuable to really anyone, especially if they're open minded and they just want to continue to learn and grow. And I think that, um, I think as far as industry wise, that you just most any type of industry, if they apply the tools that you teach, that it's just going to help their business grow.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about your experience now that let's just jump into the conversation. For most people who don't know it, we've actually moved us into a 7-week program now, but when you went through it, it was only an hour and a half in 6 weeks and hard, extremely intense for a very, very action packed. Tell us a little bit about your experience while going through it.
So my experience was, I thought it was just overall just a fantastic experience for me. I felt like I got a lot of tools that I was able to immediately apply in terms of, communicating and understanding, mindsets. And
Was there anything that kind of stood out to you in terms of the events, one of the nights, or anything in particular that just stood out to you as a big whoa? Anything like that?
I certainly think the most valuable night was when we all shared what our gifts were. It was interesting to hear how some things were similar, but then you were also able to, there was not one person that didn't share that I didn't take away something new and that I was able to apply. So
that's incredible, considering one of them actually taught us how to do a serve in tennis.
Exactly. But the cool thing about it is what I took away from that particular thing was that he focused on one skill. So, and he just fine-tuned that skill and he just practiced that skill, and it gave him the advantage. So that skill set him apart from other tennis players that maybe were better with other skills. So I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah. And it was.
Yeah.
He was so nervous because he thought, I don't know, I can tell everybody about that. I'll end up I'll do a recording with him, I think, next week. But he, so all the subjects that came about, everybody breaking it down. And we found that the distinctions, when people understand the small distinctions, it makes the biggest difference on the outcome down the road. So I think that's what you're kind of speaking to.
Yes.
Were there any maybe 2 or 3 takeaways that you were able to use right away, either in your life or your business?
I would say, I think for me, I had to look at my own mindset. I would say that, I'm not sure.
All right. Give me a subject that was that stood out to you.
I would say, definitely the mindset piece.
Okay. So there was four pieces to the mindset. We talked about accountability, talked about focus, and we talked about beliefs, and we talked about flexibility. So is there any one of those particular subjects on the mindset piece that really stood out to you that you actually applied?
So I would say that I would put it under maybe focus, just because in my line of work and what I do is that I'll have lots of different projects. And so just being able to, prioritize those things, and then, putting an action plan in place. And that just kind of continues. I mean, I apologize, that you need focus with that. Because if you don't focus on it, then, you can miss details and that kind of thing. So.
Right. And a lot of what we talked about with focus had to do with focusing specifically on what you want versus what you don't want.
Right.
I just had a conversation with someone this morning. They got a business that's possible that they want to sell. And the question's going to be, it's not whether or not you want to get rid of that business. The question is, what are you moving towards? And focus needs to be what we're moving towards versus what we're moving away from. Right. That's a lot of what we condense into that. That's a very short version of the whole thing. But
Right.
So where have you seen any actionable results that have come from your level or intensity of focus in your role there doing all this marketing for these top producers?
So, and you can maybe help me better explain this, but for me, I kind of walked away from everything feeling more confident. So I felt more confident in what I was doing and my skill set, and then using the mindset to kind of apply those things, just the accountability and focus. And
did you tell anybody no?
I have.
Is that something new for you?
Yes. Okay. I tend to be a people pleaser. And so I, you've heard yes, ma'am, or yes, man. Yeah. We were always saying yes. And so I had to really, number one, when you say yes to everything, then you can't always give the person real quality. And so for me, and you deal with, I'm dealing with top producers. And so their days.
Let's just face it. I'll tell them to their face. They're divas. So I know.
Yes, exactly. So their days are already full. They don't always plan. And so lots of requests that I get are like, hey, can I get this tomorrow? Or hey, can I get this in an hour? And so before I would just try to pull that off and
accommodate it. Yeah.
And as a result, it wouldn't be quality work, or I would be just stressed out about it. And so I've had to start saying, I apologize, I won't be able to help this time. But if you submit that request and, give me till, instead of a realistic time frame, one that I know that I can meet, then.
Wow.
So, so that's been a big piece for me.
So you probably feel like this has been really, really slow, and I don't know if I'm doing what I need to do in this conversation, Spencer. I'm going to tell you something. There's a ton of people that struggle with telling people no. And many times because they don't know what they're looking to really say yes to. So you have identified the things that you need to work on, what you should be working on, what's going to give you the biggest return, what's actually going to give your clients are technically loan officers.
That's right.
So those loan officers, to give them the high level of service they should be getting, you have to then know what has to be done. So your focus has intensified, which has allowed you to say yes to certain things and no to others.
Right. And the other piece of that is because when I originally got hired in October, I had 3. And so now I'm at 7. So that made a big difference. And so I myself had to transition to like, okay, I don't have just 3 now. I have 7. And how am I going to focus and then provide some accountability to make sure that they're planning so I can do a good job for them, that kind of thing.
Now, we've spoken a lot about the mindset piece of this, but the truth is when you think about what you're saying, the mindset shifted the conversation, but the process or the mechanics.
True.
We talk about mindset, mechanics, and movement. So the mechanics of this forced you into how do I actually do this? What are my resources? What are my actual outcomes? And then what is the breakdown of the process that I go through? And that's how you leverage it out and set it up so that you now have an actionable system to go to your LOs and say, this is what I do, this is when I need it, or this is the time frame I need it in, right?
Well, and the other important piece to that is all 7 of them, they do it differently. Each style is a little bit different. So for me, when you talk about processes, it's like I had to kind of review the tools that we have, the resources, and then just say, okay, this is what we can offer, and then give them an opportunity to say, okay, well, I want A, B, and C, and then I had to implement it into a plan that worked for not only me, but for them.
Yeah. So. Perfect. So everything we just talked about, for the people that have not done the class, they don't realize it, but you just basically said resources. I had to clarify their outcomes. Then I had to create a system or a breakdown of that. And then the last one that we didn't really talk about is optimization, which is probably what you're into now. That's the getting it better, fine tuning it, make it even more, expanding the resources, doing all those types of things. So you were kind of meat coming into this conversation, but you have done a tremendous amount just in a very short period of time. It's been very exciting to see it grow.
I appreciate it.
For the people that maybe stuck in the pattern of always saying yes, never really giving themselves any kind of focus, that kind of thing, I imagine in a personal sense, and I'm not looking to get into your personal life per se, but I think a lot of times how we do anything is how we do everything. It's one of the things we talk about. And that can very easily create dependencies or codependencies or weak people around us. And we sometimes empower those people to become weak, which sounds weird. Yeah,
It's
we
so
empower
true.
them.
True.
Would it be safe for me to say that if somebody is in a negative pattern, that they're empowering people to be weak, and if they want to reclaim themselves, they should probably come to one of these programs?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, I appreciate that, because I think that you and my wife, I think the two of you came to the program not just focused on the business side of it. It was a lot about personal growth, even though it was a business program.
Yes.
So I appreciate you guys coming for that. All right.
Well, they're so closely blended, right?
Yeah.
So, our personal does affect our workplace, and our workplace does affect our personal. So, so for me, I did look at it. I came into it looking at it from both perspectives. I wanted to gain something professionally, and I also wanted to gain something personally. So that's true.
Yeah. Perfect. So, and one of the cool things that we're going to be rolling out very shortly here is the personal one, the qualified champion for personal.
So good.
Working on one now it'll be a 7-week program where we go through the 5 different parts of life, and then apply the qualified champions blueprint to it. And undoubtedly, we're going to see some shifts in that group. So I'm excited about that.
That's going to be great.
Is there any specific stories or results that you can attribute to what you learned? We might have touched on some of that already. I just want to make sure I'm going to my questions here.
I was good. Yeah. And that's fine. I would say certainly the confidence, and then the confidence and realizing that it's okay to say no, because sometimes no is the best answer. Because if you say yes to everything, then that's not good for anybody. So I would say that that's probably one of the most valuable things that I took away. And then also just the confidence piece was.
We hit that. I think the second night we really pushed into that.
And immediately I felt it. So I was able to take that boost of confidence back to the workplace and say, and then just apply it immediately for me. And as a result, I think not only was it better for me, but it was better for the people that I work with.
Yeah. I just out of curiosity, has your husband said anything to you or noticed any differences? I don't know if he has or not. I'm just curious.
He hasn't said anything. Certainly, he noticed how focused I was on just kind of like my homework. And then especially when it came to doing the research for my topic that I was going to talk on, he certainly he noticed, it's like, oh, you're putting a lot of time and, energy into this. And I was like, well, yes, it's important. So I don't know that he completely understood what we were doing until I explained everything. And then he understood the value. So, yeah. Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll get him in on the next one.
That's right. That's right.
What would your advice be? This is probably the last question.
Sure.
What would your advice be to anyone considering the investment? What's your direct advice to someone who's thinking, I heard about this qualified champions or the business mastermind. How does that, I don't know. What would be your advice?
I would say it's worth the time and it's worth the money, and that you would definitely walk away adding value to not only personally, but professionally.
Wonderful. Okay.
Yes.
Well, if there's anything you want to expand on that down the road, let me know. I know we'll be crossing paths more as we go into the future.
Yeah.
And you may want to keep an eye out for the personal one, because we're going to be rolling that out pretty soon.
I'm excited about that. Yes.
That'll be that's where all of this started for me, was on the personal side. And we ended up bringing it to the business world. And because I realized that a lot of times people come to me to learn how to make more money. And the more I dig in, I find out that most of their challenges are rooted in a personal situation.
Absolutely.
Yep. And then when we start dealing with the root, we can deal with the fruit. So I love that.
That's a great way to put it. Yes, absolutely.
So, all right. Well, I don't have anything else to ask you. You've been a fantastic attendant, with your attendance, and we loved having you in the room. Honestly, having you and Amy kind of balanced out all the energy, some of the people in the room, so including myself. So I appreciate everything and you being a part of what we're doing.
I appreciate you having me. I really do.
So I'm gonna stop the audio at this point, and anyone that's interested more in what we're doing and want to be a part of this kind of stuff, you can go to spencercombs.com, and you'll find pretty much most of what we're doing, and all of our contact information is at the bottom. So spencercombs.com, reach out to us, and we'd be happy to help you in any way that we can.